Hello everybody and welcome to Anfield, where Liverpool have been involved in a 6-goal thriller which showed everything that's great about football, didn't it, Paul? It didn't really, of course. Liverpool 2-0 down after, what was it?
18 minutes.
And I think it's fair to say by the time that it got to the half-hour mark, Brighton should have been about 4-0 up. It was just one of those games, wasn't it? I mean, people can watch the game and see what happened in it, but we can talk here about what do you think's actually going wrong for Liverpool at the moment? While accepting that Brighton are having a good season, this was their first game under a new manager. There was a certain sense of the unknown because Liverpool didn't really know what to expect, although obviously it turned out that Brighton played pretty much the same way they have been doing under Graham Potter this season. But for Liverpool to go 2-0 down in the manner they did, as I said, it did look as though they could be 3 or 4 down by the time it gets to the half-hour mark, and this is at Anfield as well.
Yeah, I wonder how much work actually went into it this week, because Klopp said something yesterday in his press conference along the lines of, but we can't really look at Roberto Firmino's set pieces, for example, at Shakhtar, because he might be completely different to Brighton or Sassuolo where he's been in his career. And he said in his press conference that he didn't know what to expect from Brighton because it's a brand new manager coming in off the back of the international break. No real kind of recent history to analyse. So I wonder how much work actually Liverpool did in terms of assessing the opponents, because they were completely shell-shocked, weren't they, inside 20 minutes.
I mean, having said that, I mean, Mark Trossard would be quite a good plan, given the fact that he was left alone for certainly 2 of the goals. The last goal, the equalising goal. I mean, you could see, we were watching the game, we could see there's no one near him, there's no one near him, there's no one near him. Well, the cross comes in and he scored.
Yeah, I mean, Klopp was at pains yesterday to stress that defending is a kind of unit thing, isn't it? And you can't really point the finger at Trent Alexander-Arnold and say Liverpool are playing poorly at the back because of the right back. But he wasn't good today, was he? I think he was lowest rated in your ratings, wasn't he?
Yes.
And 2 of the goals have come directly from that side of his. And in the third one, the cross has come in from the left as well, hasn't it? And Trossard's finished it off at the back post. So, I mean, we can stand here all night and talk about Liverpool's problems. There's not enough pressure on the ball from the midfield. They're not really getting too much support for the front men. Salah seems far too wide, far too isolated at times. There's just so many problems with Liverpool at the moment, and they just look completely different from the team who were just kind of demolishing teams, weren't they, towards the, not so much May, because they fell behind in quite a lot of those games, but they were coming up to like 55, 56 games a season there. But certainly from January onwards, January to about the end of April, they looked like a world-class team, didn't they? They don't look anywhere near that now. I don't know, as I say, there's so many issues that you can sit here and dissect, and they can't even look at the injuries anymore, because that midfield today,
they could possibly a little bit. I mean, you could even in this game, because you look at, weirdly, the 2 centre backs weren't in by any way awful, but Konaté's a player who could come in and he might offer something different. You look at, people have been calling for Tsimikas to be playing, and I don't think I've ever seen him play a worse game for Liverpool than he played today. And they couldn't bring on Robertson, who he is injured. You had to bring Milner on to play at left back, which he did okay. I know people will say he got caught out for the last goal, but it should never have. Where was the left winger? I think you mentioned before, there was no kind of joined up thinking down either flank, I think, defensively. While Alexander-Arnold was, let's be honest, he was terrible. But he wasn't getting a lot of help from Salah. He did get a little bit from Henderson, but then when Henderson went off, because he could only play an hour because he's been injured, then Liverpool kind of lost the initiative a little bit, even if they did gain the lead during I think it was just after Henderson gone off with Trent's corner, wasn't it? Yeah, well,
I mean, for all the kind of things that you get from Harvey Elliott in possession and on the ball, he doesn't offer you the same protection that Henderson does he, to Trent, and that was obvious from the third goal, where the cross comes in from the left. The runner, Trent can't go with the runner because he's marking the man in possession, and cross comes in, and Trossard having the kind of game that he'll probably never have again, will he? I mean, he's a good player, but become the first player to score a hat-trick at Anfield as an opposition player since Andre Arshavin back in 2009, and just things that, most things that are going wrong for Liverpool at the moment, you can kind of dissect and analyse, but Liverpool have had a month to look at it and get it right.
Well, maybe that's been the problem. They haven't really had a month to have. They did have a couple of games that time. It's been a month since they played the Premier League game, but they've been, certainly with the Wolves game, they've been preparing for that, and it's like, oh, now it's not happening. So I do wonder whether or not they have certain plans, and obviously they have the internationals, which is why we didn't start today. We didn't see Diaz play from the start, whereas he came on and made a difference, but Carvalho didn't really do much, certainly on the left flank. And it's hard for players like him. He could be somebody who come in and make a difference, but he's done it when he's come off the bench. And I think that's kind of where he's at the moment, and you don't really want him to be helping carry a team, because it was noticeable when he went off, Liverpool became a lot more of a threat going forward. And in the second half, for about 20 minutes, Liverpool, I won't say they were all over Brighton, but they actually did reasonably well. They got the 2 goals, and there were a couple of other glimpses. But you always thought, I think Klopp said it afterwards, didn't you? You always thought that there was always a chance Brighton were going to score again to make it 3-3.
Yeah, he said, didn't he, as soon as it went to 3-2, he was never convinced at all that Liverpool were going to win the game, and that's quite telling, really, isn't it? You know, when you think the manager has seen his team go ahead and he's still not convinced that they're going to win, and you know, they're at home. It's against Brighton, who admittedly are in great form, having a superb season, but they're not a Premier League heavyweight, are they, by any stretch? So I thought that was quite telling. There was a nervousness around the ground that was, you know, Klopp hinted that it was reminiscent of years ago when Liverpool didn't quite have the squad or team that they've got now. So
I think the fans aren't daft to a certain extent. They can see that certain things aren't quite right. I mean, you look at individual players such as Firmino, who, you know, we mentioned it during the game again. He wasn't particularly great at all, was he?
He hasn't had a good season at all, has he? But he's not alone in that respect. But after 75 minutes, I was looking at the clock there behind us, and I was thinking, this game seems to be going by really slowly, and I think that's because Liverpool had the lead. But we knew that this was a game that was so fraught, and it could have went either way. And in the end, Brighton fully deserved a draw. Liverpool showed a bit of character to get back from 2-0 down, but they need to start starting games quicker, because it's been something that's blighted them from the back end of last season, hasn't it? You know, going behind and then switching on and then adapting and adjusting and coming into the game. You're not going to get away with that every week, so the sooner they kind of rid themselves of that and start starting games with the right mentality at the right tempo, then we might start to see this team put together a little bit of a run. But until that happens, it won't happen.
I mean, just finish on something that, you know, interesting points up front where Roberto Firmino started. And overall, his game wasn't particularly, like so many Liverpool players, wasn't 100%. He wasn't anywhere near his best. Took his 2 goals really, really well. But you got a player who could ultimately become Liverpool's record signing on the bench, and he only comes on for like 2 or 3 minutes at the end.
Yeah, difficult, isn't it? Because Liverpool went 3-2 up, and then you can sort of see the wisdom of keeping Nunes in reserve and kicking his heels on the sidelines. But then he comes on with 2 minutes to go. You know, as soon as Brighton made 3-3, he should have been brought on. And there's another 5-6 minutes have passed there before he's been able to get on the pitch, and he's barely had a kick. And that would have rankled, because he scored for Uruguay, didn't he, in midweek, and he would have been itching to get on the pitch and try and do the business today. And still waiting for his Liverpool career to take flight, and there are 101 reasons why it hasn't so far, but another week goes by.
So just the 31 Premier League games to go, everybody. Cheerio.